Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you supposed to be in here? You're really making a mess of it, aren't you? I'm down your hop. Out you come on. So, oh, goodness sake, fellas. Good morning, everybody. I've got all the chores done, so it's about mid-morning. I've just fed the rabbits all fresh green stuff. I cut that in the morning. About 120 chooks. I will fixed all them up. It takes a lot longer what you think. You know, if you're thinking, oh well, that'll take a couple of hours in the morning, it never does. It always takes longer. It's always up to do. I planted some peas. They're a bit sort of leggy, but I'm not planning them to grow with them. I'm planting them to enhance the soil under the tomatoes. So in today's episode, what I'm doing is that the cabin. I'm going to look at the cabin. We originally built it just before COVID. We were moving back down to Victoria from the Northern Territory, and rather than pay rent, I built this cabin for us to live in. We lived in it for a year before we bought this property. We decided not to stay on the property we were on. It was a lot smaller, so we built this little cabin. And today we're going to take a look at that, look at how I built it, how it's done, how we moved it, and how we saved a year's rent. You know, that cabin there is basically represent, if you exclude the power system, which is a bit expensive, but if you just the building of it and the fitting out of it, is basically equivalent to a year's rent, which is a lot these days. So we saved that money. We still have it. We still have it sitting on here, and we're going to repurpose that for a sort of a glamping situation. Sorry about that. I'm one of those people that notice birds. You know, when I'm talking to somebody and I look out, corner of my eyes, a bit of movement, I'll see a bird. I thought I saw something on a badge, but no. Anyway, back to that. So today I'm going to spend sort of putting that together. It's all old photographs and a bit of new stuff. So I'll be on the computer all day today. The building of cabins seems to be quite a topic of interest at the moment. We watch YouTube videos of North American, Canadian cabin builders, log cabin builders, and really enjoy their exploits. This little cabin's a little bit more practical than their cabins. It's all about, somewhere to live during COVID, a little nest, I suppose, shelter from the world and all the craziness of COVID. That craziness doesn't seem to have stopped either, does it? It was always our intention to move this cabin, hence I built it on the steel base so it can be lifted up by a crane, so it's all welded together quite strongly, top and bottom, and welded onto those I-beams that you see running through. It also represents quite a bit of weight, so it's unlikely to blow away, or less likely to blow away. So I framed it up out of pine, very lightly. It's clad in it's called shadow clad. It's a Carter Holt Harvey plywood product. I've used a lot of it on a couple of warehouses I built, lots of houses, a pole frame house. It's structurally very sound, so it makes walls, the diaphragm in walls very, very, strong, very, very stable. So for a property you're going to lift up, it adds a lot of structural strength to it. There's also a high insulation value. There's like with weatherboards, there's lots of little gaps and everything that you've got to seal up. With this product, there is none. It also goes up very quickly. I screwed this all by hand, which took a time. I didn't have enough power for compressors or anything like that. There's no power to the site, so it was all off quite a small generator. Another beauty of the plywood is that you can tie top to bottom. You'll see in these images here that I've used 2.7 metre sheets, and they can tie from the steel subfloor through into the roof trusses. I'd probably build it in a month of my labour, but of course waiting for windows, and I didn't put the roof on, I got someone else to do that. I had to wait for that. But that's building without, this is a movable building, so I didn't have to wait for council. We were thinking of getting the power put on, but this seems to be a real issue these days. The amount of time it took them to even think about getting a power pole put on, and then the amount of money they wanted to put it on, we really just gave up before we even got an answer, and decided to go completely off grid. It would have ended up being, comparable in price, perhaps a little bit more expensive to be off grid, but no power bills. But at the end of the day, they really presented us with the power companies really presented us with a situation where it was better for us to go off grid. I don't know what word you'd use, Back in the day when I was a young guy, the word was hippie. You were out there being self-reliant, but perhaps it's self-reliance now, or independent, self-sufficient. But there's something to be said for being independent in today's world. It's really hard to rely on government anymore, or everybody's too busy running around to give you a hand. You don't want a mortgage, so in a lot of ways it's just, you're better off, depending on yourself, doing it yourself. So this is the off-grid power system that runs the little cabin. We've got on the left there a Quattro Victron 3000 watt, 12 volt. We've got the MPPT, that's a solar charge controller. And there are 1300 watts of solar on the roof in 4 panels. So we've got 2 panels in series, linked together in parallel coming into that. So there's 2 wires, 2 negatives and 2 positives, and the positives go through this breaker here. That leads down to what I think is probably a pretty important part of the system, is that little blue thing. It's a battery protect, so you can't run the battery below, I think it's 11.5 volts or something like that. At the moment the system is running at 14 volts. It's in absorption mode. It'll go into float pretty shortly, being that high. But that'll cut the system off if it gets too low, below I think it's 11 volts. We've got that battery down there, which is a 230 amp hour Victron battery, AGM battery. That's a pretty expensive part of the system. That's about $1,000 worth. You know, the inverter's a bit more than that. That's about, I think they got paid about 3,000, you know, 800. The solar panels, a Trinium, 320 watt each, 4 of them. They were at the time, they were about $300 each. Coming out of the system is 240 volt into the 240 volt side here. So I've got breakers and all sorts of stuff there. This side here is the in-feed, so I can put a generator or an outside power supply to charge the system up if there's not enough sun. And this cable here coming out from it, well, first of all we've got those two cables there, that one there and that one there is the 12 volt in, coming from a big fuse there and coming through the positive coming through the solar charger. So then the 12 volt out goes to a simple little 12 volt distribution board with fuses in it. Now that ran two people living in here, so lighting morning and night, a fridge running 24/7, and a big computer, iMac running all day and into the evening. That was pretty well on all you know, working hours. My wife was working from home then, and it ran most of the time. So the battery, the system will shut down to protect the battery. So this is the toilet end. That's the toilet down there. I've got a sort of a timer button at one end that used to be used to sort of pump part of it out, pump a container out. The toilet itself is a separator toilet with just an ordinary bucket with some holes drilled in it, and the urine goes in that front section and the solids go in the back, and you put sawdust in there to help draw the moisture out of it. And that's why it does. This separator toilet idea is not new, it's not my idea. The YouTube is full of it, and it's everywhere, and they work. Look, they work. It's not everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people don't really like this sort of idea, but they work. You can make it yourself, or like the image on the screen, it's Nature's Head. You can buy a commercially made product, and look, they're good. Does it smell? Well, no, not really. There's 3 points here that stop the smell. The first one is that when you take the urine away from the solid matter, the smell is gone as well. The second one, you put the sawdust into the solid matter, and that draws away moisture as well, lowering the smell. The third one is that we have a negative pressure in the toilet box by way of a little 12 volt fan that draws air into the toilet box and pulls it out to the outside world, you know, really eliminating any chance of smell getting back into the cabin. So that's just finalising the video now, just doing the closing bit. You see behind me there, I'm almost finished the little glass house add-on to the house. I'll go through that little door there into a sort of a mud room, I think you'd call it, bathroom. That's a work in progress, and I'll keep building that for some time. It's not part of the farm really, it's family, so it doesn't get everything. We've got some bad dogs. They've been very bad, so they're in the cage. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We talked about the cabin today, and it's a good idea. You know, everybody should have a cabin, a little off-grid cabin, somewhere you can go. I'd actually like to sometime in the later part of my life, what I would actually like to do is to if I go up here on the levee bank, if you look down there, you see that big billabong goes all the way down to the road and all the way up there. I'd like to build a little floating cabin on that I can float up and down and have the big camera in there, you know, filming all the birds that I'm sort of floating around with. It'll be just the best thing in life. I'd look forward to doing that. I'll go down there and just hide in the little cabin and untie myself from the bloody farm and just drift off down there, and nobody could find me. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? That's another project.